Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. We're just reacting to Thursday Night Football. Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the New York Jets 19-3. Sam, I thought at the beginning of the day that the story might be, hey, if the Jaguars win this game, we'll talk about their playoff hopes and everything. But the story coming out of this one is Zach Wilson getting benched, finishes 9 of 18 for 92 yards and an interception. That was really not even indicative of how bad it was. He was also sacked 3 times for negative 21 yards. So a 41.9 passer rating feels rich for Wilson. The interception was just kind of before the end of the half. But offense was a struggle for the Jets, and this could be it for Zach Wilson as quarterback.
Yeah, I think it probably is. And in a funny way, I almost don't want to be too harsh on him for this specific game because like the conditions sucked, right? Like it was cold, it was wet, the ball was slippery. He wasn't helped by the fact that didn't seem to hamper Trevor Lawrence or Chris Streveler, the other two quarterbacks who played in the game. But sometimes that happens, right? Some guys are going to struggle with weird conditions weather-wise more than others. So I think he was definitely hampered by the conditions in this game. He kept trying to throw these deep passes and just couldn't get anything on them because the ball was slipping out of his hand. Missed a couple of shorter passes as well because the ball was coming out of his hand weird. Like it's one of those games where I don't think this game necessarily indicates that much about Zach Wilson, but the hate that was thrown his way, I think does say something. Like the fact that the crowd was just relentlessly booing him. They were booing him not just going off the field, but when he was coming back on the field for the next drive, the crowd was booing. Like they are done with Zach Wilson as the quarterback. Like the fact that he has that little built up, goodwill from the crowd, from the team, from anybody, from his teammates. Every time he put a ball in a bad location towards Garrett Wilson looked back at him like he wanted to murder the guy after the play. Like, I don't see any way back just because everybody thinks he's awful at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. It's not just this game, but it was the Zach Wilson era right now. It's been difficult to watch because the easy stuff just isn't there, right? I mean, say what you want about, there was a 3rd and long dig route and it was open and he skipped it by about 5 yards. Whatever. You call it a wet ball, but sometimes it's just hit the 5-yard check down, just hit the easy pass, and none of that has been there. And what you said about the crowd just turning on him, I was surprised by that. I don't think he was a disaster last week. As we mentioned on the podcast this week, you said specifically some big time throws in there, some of the things you expected from Zach Wilson, some incredible inconsistency, right? You had him hit a 3rd and 19 crossing route. This was last Sunday. You had him take that same crossing route and airmail it by 10 yards. But it wasn't like the worst outing that Zach Wilson had ever had. And then he shows up here on the Thursday night game and the crowd's ready, that they're just done with him. But they were, it wasn't coming off this terrible game.
Last week, I think, was a reasonable step in the right direction for Zach Wilson. The fact that coming off that week, he can play as badly as he did here and the crowd immediately turns on him, I think tells you everything you need to know about where he stands in the eyes of Jets fans. Like Chris Streveler comes in to replace him. Streveler is not a viable NFL quarterback. Like that guy is a poor man's Taysom Hill playing quarterback. He is like a week and a half late on literally an uncovered tight end over the middle. Should have been an easy walk-in touchdown. He throws it like 5 yards behind him. The guy has to stop, crouch down, pick the ball up off the turf. And Jets fans like celebrate wildly because it was just any kind of positive play by a quarterback that wasn't Zach Wilson. Like that's how low the bar has been set by Wilson, that a terrible pass by a completely non-viable quarterback is greeted like, the catch from Joe Montana to Dwight Clark just because it wasn't Zach Wilson attempting it. Like, I mean, he's fair. I just don't see any way back to that from that.
To be fair, Streveler's electric. He's been electric everywhere he's been. Everybody wants Streveler on the field. I don't have much else to say. I mean, I think quarterback development is fascinating for all of us, right? It's tough to project quarterbacks. We've seen quarterbacks who looked raw in college become Patrick Mahomes. We've seen quarterbacks who looked great struggle in the NFL. it's a difficult thing. And, at the same time, you're seeing Trevor Lawrence, his ascent to superstardom.
Yeah.
You're seeing Zach Wilson never take that step forward. And there's no signs that it's going to be coming anytime soon.
Yeah, it certainly didn't help that while this was happening, Trevor Lawrence is on the other side looking, cool, calm, and assured and on his way the way he's been the last few weeks.
All right, got to tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. It is so easy to play. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. Sam, tell them about it.
Yeah, I love PrizePicks. I think it's a great way of playing DFS. Like you said, you pick yourself a little slate of 2 to 5 picks. They've got pretty much any sport in the you can think of, including esports. You can cross pick. You can go across different sports and build yourself a little ticket. And then when you're done, you don't even need to get them all right. Like if you choose the right way of selecting, you can still get a win, even if one of your guys lets you down, like Zach Wilson, for example.
Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code DAILY. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks gives you $100. Deposit $50, PrizePicks gives you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code DAILY at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. So what happens now? Zach Wilson, the Jets. I know a healthy Mike White is the starter, but is Zach Wilson's time in New York just over?
I kind of feel like it has to be at least a starter. Like they're in a real tough spot because this probably costs them a playoff spot. Like I don't think they can make the playoffs at this point. So Zach Wilson, the number 2 overall pick, it was on the bench, and Chris Streveler was trying to rescue a playoff appearance that Mike White might be able to come back in and help them, to win games there. So Mike White is the quarterback that's shown the most on the roster right now, but it's still far from a sure thing what he will be going forward. My thing is more, I don't know that Zach Wilson can be on the roster anymore. Like it's turned that toxic that do you have to get rid of him completely? Like whatever that costs, if someone will give you like a small bag of pennies that you've had in the side of the closet for years, do you just get rid of him just to get him out of the locker room and off the roster and away from your problem? Or are you stuck with him sitting there as a backup to Mike White next year and just hope that goes okay?
You don't even treat it as a sunk cost. You think it's that bad? It is that toxic that you'd have to get rid of him?
I mean, I don't think you want him sitting behind Mike White going into next year.
Oh man, there's always the chance though, right? There's always the chance that the talent catches up and he shows up to training camp. I feel like you got to give him one more offseason. Maybe not as the starter. I mean, this offseason, I'm not going into the season with Mike White as my starter next year either. I'm pursuing Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going into Aaron Rodgers trade market. If you're the Jets and you're Robert Saleh heading into year 3 as head coach, and you feel like you've built this roster and built it, and it's been piece by piece, they're in a good spot roster-wise, right? They could regress defensively, whatever. They're in a good spot. They've added talents to this team. They're going to get a quarterback this offseason. But I feel like maybe having Zach Wilson on the roster, just in case he could figure it out, is not the worst thing in the world.
That being said, like if you're going after a new starting quarterback, whoever that is, Jimmy G, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, whatever that looks like, I think I would want Mike White as his backup before I want Zach Wilson.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it's because it's a sunk cost. I mean, if you think it's going to be a toxic locker room, just having the dude around, I mean, that's a different story.
Not even that. Like, forget the toxic locker room, bad attitude type of stuff. At this point, what evidence is there to suggest that Zach Wilson has a higher ceiling than Mike White? Like, we're going back to basically arm talent and draft stock, but Mike White has looked like a dramatically better NFL player than Zach Wilson has. If I'm taking a guy who hasn't shown me enough yet to be the starter, but maybe in the future, that's Mike White before it's Wilson.
No, it's true. I mean, the only thing that would, is there even a market for Zach Wilson? You're not going to get anything for him. We haven't seen, what other quarterbacks have been this bad right out of the gate? Josh Rosen
Yep.
pretty much after a year, and you still got a
Ryan
second
Leaf.
for him as the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, like you got to go back a while, but it's like Josh Rosen, Ryan Leaf. Like it's
Blaine Gabbert, I think Gabbert was benched into year 2, and he wasn't
I mean,
bringing any value in after that.
you can make the argument that Alex Smith was this bad, and they just kept on going with it, and he improved. Alex
That is
Smith had
true.
like
Alex
one
Smith had
touchdown to 11 interceptions or something
Yeah.
insane his rookie year.
Yeah, I just don't know if his teammates hated him as much as Zach Wilson.
And
It's
that's
like
a big thing, right?
A somber PFF daily here today. Trying to figure out what the Jets are doing. Sorry for the lack of energy. Like, we're sitting here puzzled. How is it this bad? Rough game for the Jets. Good job by the Jaguars. But yeah, we'll figure out. What do you think? Let us know what's going to happen with Zach Wilson and the Jets.